Oh, I don't have the right one. I don't have it.
Is it somewhere?
It's not here. I am sorry. The one up here is for next week. Sorry. Okay, the word today was on forgiveness. And we can imagine all the good things we could say about forgiveness. But for now, let's just say the affirmation. In the peace of prayer, I release all unforgiveness. And the scripture says, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors.
Reverend Buddy Horn.
I got an aerobic workout just watching you play that song. I wanted to acknowledge this time in which we are in right now. There's a lot of energy and a lot of emotion. I thought about some musical terms. I thought about tension. A lot of songs have tension in them. Discord and resolve or resolution. And so before Terry goes and rests, I would like for him to give us an example, because I think it's a lot more about being aware of what we're feeling, what's going on inside, than what our brain is necessarily registering to us. This time in which we live, there's just a whole lot of stuff. So to recognize that seems important. So Terry, could you give us an example of what tension might feel like? Yeah. So that's kind of the state we're in a way, that it's just going on. And we've sort of learned to adapt to that a bit. But there's more. What about discord? That's not pleasant. In fact, discord is like when something that just sort of irritates comes along and disrupts our comfort zone, our familiar, what we would choose. Fortunately, discord is not an every moment thing, but it does come into play, certainly as of late. Now, what we look for is we look for a resolve of that tension and that discord, because in that place, it just feels better. Can we have some resolve? Thank you, Terry. Of those three, which would you prefer to endure for a long time? Pretty easy, isn't it? The resolve. Well, there's a time and a place for each of those. But right now, the resolve might be kind of put on hold. I would like to share some my personal spiritual journey, and that all of these things come into play. It was about a year ago to this time, I don't remember exactly when, but about a year ago, I started work on the old house that I grew up in. And my first task was to completely redo the roof on this house. Now, it's me, myself, and I doing the work. And if you're repairing a roof, if there's any material to get on the roof, you get it up there for the most part. It is a big task. And I didn't just start that task. I inherited some physical pains from prior work I'd been doing. I had a knee that was messed up. I had a hip that was doing something weird. Lower back injury. And in the midst of shingling, I just reached the wrong way, and I had one of those discord moments. I mean, I just put my arm out and something popped up here. So I had this tremendously big task, and if it's going to get done, I'm going to do it. And it was a tremendous amount of work. I had to tear some roofs off, re-deck roofs, and re-shingle everything, redesign the whole thing. And needless to say, I couldn't let up. Because if I'd ever let up, I wasn't sure I'd ever get started again. I just had to stay with it until I got it done. And that was my resolve. Finally, I got off the roof. I was talking with my youngest daughter a couple days ago. We were texting back and forth, and somehow or another I brought up the fact that I was working on the house, and she said, well, I sure wish you didn't have to do that. I wish you had help. And I said, well, you know, it is what it is. And she said, well, I understand, but I'll be worrying about you. And I thought, worrying about me? Well, I'm not sure that's going to help, but that is an option. Worry is an option. It's a response to a situation. And oftentimes we find ourselves worrying because of some tension that was generated in our life. Now, I understand worrying about me working on the old house because it's a big deal. And I have a lot of it yet to go. This COVID thing comes along about the time I got off the roof. And I was so relieved to get off the roof and start doing stuff from the ground and start doing some finish work, you know. I liked the outcome of it and I was enjoying it. And then this COVID thing comes along. You know, I still had the whole task to do. So there's this tension and this pressure to, you know, keep moving, keep getting stuff done, and then bam, that hits. And I just had to forget about the house and attend to other things. One thing was Dorothy's place of employment furloughed people, had people take vacation or whatever, and they basically said, work out of your home, no face-to-face contact. And she inherited not only all of her stuff, but some other people's workload. And all of it had to be done from the house. And I said, well, you know, I've done this part of your job before. I'll come back and do that and help you through this. So I started that. So we were sort of managing some of that pressure, that additional tension in life. But then we had to shut our doors here. Now that was a discord for me. That was huge discord. Hit all the wrong notes. Very painful. Because we went from a lot of people, a great study group, a lot of things going in the right direction, a lot of wonderful new relationships built. And we went from that to not knowing the outcome, not having any control necessarily, not knowing what the next step would be, but we just know we're separate. We didn't get to see one another. We didn't get to benefit from journeying and just talking together. I can still remember deciding to try to text and have a class that way. And the uncertainty and the tension that went along with that. And I can remember then kind of resolving a little bit, because you know what, as cumbersome or awkward as that was, we were connecting again. And that met a very significant need within me, and I felt collectively, okay, we're together. It's interesting, but we're together, and we're making it happen. Well, so we sorted some things out, and I put off a task back at the old house because it is a big one. Put it off as long as I could, and I don't know if it was this last week or the week prior, I went back to work on the bathroom part of the project. Now here's the thing with the bathroom. Dad built it, and when he built it, he just sort of almost attached it to the back side of the house, but not quite. There was a gap. And he took concrete blocks, and instead of laying them flat so there's a nice flat surface on the ground, he didn't put down a footing. He stacked these blocks up so the narrow part of the block would be on the surface. And he put some on the corners and one in the middle and this corner and that corner. So the bathroom has actually settled and pulled away from the house a little bit. I had to go up and replumb it underneath the structure, which meant pick and shovel. And I had to dig out and actually pour some concrete footings so I can build up some frames and support this structure. I knew very well why I'd put that off. My back doesn't like that anymore. And after a couple of days of that, my back was really talking to me. But I got that behind me. And I had to just deal with the tension and the back pain and the discord of that. And it gets pretty intense sometimes. I can feel it now. But I got it done so I could move on. And there's my bit of resolve. I got away from that, and the old pick's resting now, and the shovel's laying by itself. They're doing good. I bring this up because I think we really need to learn how to take care of ourselves through these times of tension and discord and a lack of resolve. We really have to nurture ourselves through this and not ignore self-care, not ignore that we're human beings and we have a mind that's conditioned to interpret things in certain ways. And a lot of times that's a negative kind of a way. And we can get down on ourselves, we can get down on others, or We can start wishing, well, sometime down the road, something's going to come about and things are going to be better. And we lose sight of this very precious moment that we have. And that's missing it. That's missing it. And I know I can do that real easy. I run across a source downstairs in our library that gave me something to bring to you today that I think can be very helpful. It's by Erhard Vogel, PhD. Journey into Your Center is the title of the book. And I would say by overall, most of you are very familiar with the content of the book. But this one practice that he offers, I thought, now this is really good stuff. It's not necessarily new, but it's something we can practice to help us navigate the tension and the discord in which we find ourselves and come through it with a great positive benefit, an outcome. So I want to go through this with you. There's a few steps to this process. And one step, the first step, is to stop. Simply stop. It might sound easy, but when my brain gets going on something, it just embraces all kinds of habits that don't necessarily serve me well. Interpreting things a certain way, dread, resentment, fear, anger, frustration. And that can just spiral. Well, if we can just stop before we do anything, before we take a step in any direction, just stop and get some clarity on some things, we'll be much better off. Because we don't want to continue to add to our stress by thinking as we have in the past in negative ways. We want to orient ourselves to the right way of thinking. Now, easier said than done. It just seems like when we face tension and discord in life, it's easy for that to be added to. It just happens. It's like you've got enough, you don't want any more, but here it comes. We decided to get a different phone for the church because the one that we've used is not very good, to say the least. It's a little bitty dysfunctional flip phone that nobody has been able to enjoy for any length of time. So we decided to get a phone. And so we've done that. We've got a nice big phone. It's about 3 generations back, but that's way ahead for us. Really nice looking phone. The challenge is, ever since I got the phone, I've been trying to get the service hooked up to it. And it's been one thing after another. Now, this same service I got for me initially, it took 2 days. One day I went online, I selected their service and did what I needed to do. The next day, the little chip goes in your phone, showed up at the door the next day, and popped it in, and I was up and going, no problem. Got it for Dorothy, and it took a couple of days for the chip to get there, but then up and going, smooth sailing. As of right now, I'm still trying to get through the process. I've made trips over here. I've been online so many times. In fact, let me tell you, I got online early in the morning at the house. And I don't remember exactly what part of that process I was trying to overcome, but all of a sudden I get an email from Janelle. She said, "Are you trying to get online? The church's email?" I said, "Yes." And I could tell she was trying to get online too, and I was interfering with her task. She said, "We need to work together quickly to resolve this." And I'm thinking, oh, that just doesn't work for me. I'm already confused. Resolve this quickly? Probably not going to happen. So I said, hey, I'll get out, leave it alone. So I did. And then a few minutes later, I go back, and Google had blocked me. They sent a message saying, You have been blocked from this site due to irregular activity. I thought, oh, irregular activity. I knew it was irregular. I didn't know what I was doing. But you didn't have to put salt in the wound. I'll tell you a funny thing that occurred about the same time. It was a little bit before. I was up at the old house working on the bathroom. And I come down to the house, and Dorothy's in the living room, which is her office, and she's working. And I open the refrigerator, and I hear that church phone say, "You have a voicemail." And I look at it, and it's sitting there on a container of cottage cheese or something. It didn't take me long to figure out the phone had got in trouble, and it went to the refrigerator. Because this phone, you can't turn it off, and you can't shut it up. If it gets a low battery, 2 a.m. in the morning, you're going to know it. Because they say, low battery, and it just keeps repeating it. So anyway, I looked at that phone, and I shut the refrigerator door. And I said something, not much. And yeah, she confirmed it wouldn't shut up, so it went to the refrigerator. Well, I go up to the old house, and I resume working, and then later on I come down, and as I'm walking down to the house, I look, and there's our dog on her leash, but the leash is shut in the door. So the dog's on the outside of the house, and I walk in, and I say, "Did the dog get put in the refrigerator?" Yes, she wouldn't shut up. So I thought, I better not say much. I might end up in the refrigerator. There's another issue. And I don't mind telling you this because in a way it's therapeutic for me, I guess. I am the treasurer. I was out getting something. I don't know if it was stamps or what. But we have a credit card. And I'd taken this credit card with me and got it, but more than likely I went home from there. I think I got the stamps in Kimberling City. Anyway, I get home and life rolls, and it's another couple of days, and I'm needing to do something, and I need that card. And I look where I think it should be, and I can't find it. I come over here and I go through everything on the desk and I cannot find it. And I go through pockets and I can't find it. And I go to the car and I look here and everywhere and I can't find it. Now, we go from tension to discord pretty quick on a situation like that. If it was my card, I wouldn't be happy about it, but I could, okay, no big deal. But when it's our card, it was really bugging me. I reacted with worry, fear, frustration, a little self-loathing. Why didn't I don't know, put it somewhere where I'd find it easy? And I thought, this isn't helping. There's one thing I need to do. So I go to the bank and I say, stop the card, order another one. We do that, and I'm relaxing a little bit. But I went into that reacting with the tension, allowing that to build. And I don't know about you, but when I'm experiencing tension and discord, my thinker doesn't work so great. It doesn't help one bit. And yet, there's a pattern there that I can easily go into. So in the midst of all this stuff that's going on, I find it really easy to worry, or to feel some frustration, or to feel some anger, or to try to just escape reality, or the reality that I interpret anyway. That's not helpful. What I need to do is stop. Just stop. Stop that whole process. And think about, what am I doing? What am I feeling? And if I'm not feeling what I want to feel, peace, calm, then get myself in that place. I know Donna says, go within. I read a remark on Facebook just recently that said, go within. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's it. One of the things that I am really mindful of doing now is when I go up to the old house to work, as I'm going up there, I don't look at all the task that's before me. I think about, who am I? What am I? And I don't know the outcome of this whole project, but it's a gift in my life right now. There's a reason for this, and it's a blessing. And so I go at it thinking about, show me what I'm to see. Help me to understand what I am to understand. Help me to embrace this, not negatively, which is the old habits, patterns, but lovingly and wholly, in tune with my being. So, take time to stop. It's probably the most important action we can take. Stop first. And after the second step, maybe stop again. And make sure we're only trying to move forward in the right, helpful state of being. Well, step 2 is to step back. And step back is realizing our true state of being. I have 2 sources that informs me pretty well to that. One of them is very similar to the other. And I'm really appreciative of that connection now. When I went to seminary, I was United Methodist, and we studied John Wesley and that theology. And John Wesley and Charles Wesley, the brothers, had a very similar experience or origin to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. They belonged to a mainline denomination, but they wanted a practical experience. They wanted to apply the teachings, not just have them in their head. So they started inviting at that time just some guys that would want to do it on a weekly basis to get together and to share their story, their successes, their failures. And there was no judgment in it. It was supporting one another and their spiritual journey. And because they did this, and they did this practicing it weekly, they became known as methodic. They had a method. Well, what did Charles and Myrtle Fillmore do? They got together with those that wanted to get together, and they practiced very significant teaching. And neither group had an idea of creating a whole new spiritual body or religious denomination. But things grew because they were important. Well, there's 2 things about this. And you know, the spiritual path for me is not real clear always. John Wesley wrote and promoted the idea that we're all going on to perfection. We're going on to perfection. And that this God that we have is a God of grace. And he didn't really spend time thinking about judgment and condemnation and evil and separation, all that stuff. It was going on to perfection. That made sense to me because I was very focused on my lack of perfection at that point in time. And so that gave me hope. It sort of kept me from getting self-judgmental because I'm on the path. Charles Fillmore comes along and says, it's about the I am, who you really are. You always have been, you always will be. And nothing external can change that. Nothing you do say can change that ultimate truth of being. I like that. And I practice that. But I also know I'm on the way. Maybe the on the way to perfection is the on the way to realizing that more fully. Maybe that's my bridge and my connection there. But that gives me hope. Now, if we're going through life and things happen and we find ourselves worried, fearful, angry, stop, make sure we understand what's going on, and then step back and put ourselves in that context of, this is my truth, this is my being. And all these things that are out here going on, I can observe. I can also bless them. I can just change my response to these things. Maybe I can say to each event, help me to understand more of my being through this event. We had the blessing this morning of having Hildy plug in from her hospital bed on our study group. And we talked about this a little bit. And that's the state she's in. She's open to learning, growing in this time and this event of life. And so often, when my back's hurting me really severely, it's a bit of a challenge to say, help me to appreciate what I'm to learn through this. But that really is the only good response to it. To be frustrated that once again I've injured my back doesn't help. To look outside at, well, I've got to do this task or that task, doesn't really help. But to realize my being and that these things are teaching me, or they're trying to teach me. Spirit's trying to say, you've grown in this direction, that direction, but here, this is the opportunity you have before you. So after we can step back and get ourselves really grounded in the truth of our being, we can tune in. And tune in is like thinking about, all right, you may be struggling in this moment in this, but think about where you've come from. Think about what you've learned, or think about the good that you've manifested in your life. Think about the abilities you have, the strengths you have. Embrace those things. Life can come at us in such a way with our conditioned mind that we can easily get overwhelmed. It's within the last week, we got a very Discord text, or I guess it was a Facebook thing, from the granddaughter in Florida. Is she 18? 17, okay. Anyway, it was a very mature, sobering communication. And in that communication, she mentioned about suicide. Not for her, but mentioned suicide. So we knew something's happened. I had just communicated with her mother, and she said nothing about this. So we were disturbed. And Dorothy communicates to both of my daughters, their daughters, and finds out that my daughter's first husband had taken his life just a couple of days before. And I don't know what was going on with him, but what it said to me immediately was, you know what? Our spiritual journey and our practice is very important. And I need to hear this on another depth, that don't take it for granted. Dig in, apply it, remember. Don't let things build and just respond through our conditioned mind. But take hold of I am affirmation. Take hold of this kind of a stop and evaluate who you are and affirm that and tune into yourself. It's very important. It's really not, if we neglect it, none of us are without some vulnerabilities. So anyway, focus with breath. That's another step. Now we've talked about this. We had, I know Cynthia showed here one time about heart math. And if you remember, or if you don't know, heart math is really about going within, centering through breath, and connecting with your heart. Because as heart math teaches, the heart says much more to the brain and gives direction to it, either for good or harm, than the brain gives to the heart. And if I remember the presentation that we were experiencing then, it was like You slowly breathe in for 10 seconds, and you're aware of the breath coming in, but you imagine it's coming right into your heart area. And then you slowly, counting like 10 seconds, you exhale that. And it brings you into a state of peace. And this particular show that she presented was actually done from military people and their experience. Their way of coping with post-traumatic stress and all kinds of things. It was more effective than just about any other kind of therapy you could get a hold of. And it was so simple, yet it's so powerful and effective. It reminded me, Jesus said to his disciples one time when he was trying to support them and encourage them, he said, "Let not your heart be troubled." He didn't say, "Don't worry. Let not your heart be troubled." There's something about us, and that's why I wanted Terry to play that so we could feel it. We're so used to processing through our mind, but when we learn to process through our heart, we'll be much healthier. We'll be much better in line with what we need to be in line with. So you might try that. You might try the breathing. It's nothing new to Unity, but it needs to become a practice. Not something we just do on a Sunday, but maybe every time we need to stop because we're starting to go down the wrong path with our thoughts and our emotional response, stop. And you could do this heart math, 10 seconds. Do that a couple of times, and it puts you in a state of wholeness and grounding. Another is completely release. Completely release all tensions in mind, in physical being. I used to golf once in a while, and it was really easy for me to find myself not breathing. I'd come up to the ball and take my stance, and I'd realize I haven't taken a breath, and I'd get all tense and tight. I can do that playing the instruments. If I'm I don't know, I can just find out I need to breathe. Breathe. It's so important. And it's so easy to not do. And I think that's where that tension is. Our whole body is all tensed up. Our mind is sort of frozen in that state of being. And so by breathing, we can relax and let go of some of that stuff. I know, Donnie, you've talked about how much you enjoy the beach and the ocean. And I thought, well, in addition to breathing, you've been there and done that. So you could imagine yourself sitting there and just watching this eternal waves and the sound and the freshness of that just all taking place. How can you hold tension in your body, your being, if you be in that state? Don't believe it's possible. Another thing is you can experience yourself in the I am state. Now, here's what I mean by that. There's a big difference if I go work on the house, no matter what I'm doing, if I approach that with, I am a divine being. I'm whole. No matter what takes place here, it does not affect the truth of my being one bit, or the amount of my being, but I am approaching this task with this consciousness. And I'm going to remind myself, I am. And it's amazing the difference in energy level, in enjoyment of the task that I experience when I do that, versus going up there with thinking the negation stuff. It doesn't go well that way. I can easily get overwhelmed. I get tired quickly. I get frustrated quickly. So experience yourself in the I am state in all things. This doesn't automatically kick in for us. It won't jump on us and get our attention. It's a process we really have to be mindful of and intentional and appreciative of. The good thing about all this stuff that's going on in our life experience right now is that we have the incentive to embrace our own health, our well-being, our own advancement on our journey, our spiritual awakening. And this is a pretty simple process to follow. And I do not think it's a wasted opportunity or insignificant. I think it has tremendous meaning. We started on the book of Revelation this morning by Charles Neal. And right up front, just basically says, this is a source of comfort. This is a source of help. This is the way shower's guide. And so these things that we're facing are really gifts to us if we can embrace them. And because unity is, I don't know what ever got away from the name of Church of Practical Christianity. I think that's a pretty good term. Practical. Put it into practice. I don't know of many other spiritual bodies that have a practice. But I'm so thankful that this is originally oriented towards a practice. And we can follow that and benefit from that and come through any situation with greater awareness and therefore greater peace and joy. So, the resolve. Are you looking outside for the resolve? Are you looking for the vaccinations? I'm sure looking forward to the vaccinations. But is that where the resolve will be found? Are we looking for a peaceful transition in government? Is that where the resolve is going to be found? I'm looking forward to that. But is that where my focus needs to be? Am I looking for, in my own physical being, no pains, no aches? It'd be nice, but is that where the resolve is? No, the resolve really is only one place, when we go within. It's always been there, always will be there, and that's the only place we really need to be looking. And so, let not your heart be troubled. Know who you are and affirm your truth, and you shall know peace. And that's the Spirit speaking directly to us, each individually and collectively. So why don't we take a moment, and I think I would ask us to practice a few moments of the heart math. Jesus said, let not your heart be troubled. So you can just breathe in and just focus on your breath. Breathe in, and you can do it for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and then out whatever you're comfortable with. I get caught up sometimes so in my head, literally, that I'm thinking, okay, am I in sync with them? They're at a 7, I'm at a 6. Uh-oh. Forget that. Do your own count in and out, but focus that breath in your heart. And let's just absorb some of the peace that is our truth being. Spirit, we celebrate being. Help us to appreciate, to take in more of our being, to feel the energy of creative life, to not be distracted by external events, to notice and bless. We desire this path that we've each chosen. We desire to find joy in the path too. But that joy is from within. We desire that our joy, our wholeness, our truth take manifestation when we think about those that we don't even need to know by name, that may be nearing being overwhelmed by their journey. All of our caregivers. May our joy, our wholeness, be transmuted, that they can be encouraged. Let not their hearts be troubled. Let them find peace and strength in their journey of service and love. Keep us open to this journey that we're upon. To be mindful to first and foremost seek the kingdom of heaven within. And find the next step, and then the next, and then the next. Thank you for the gift of this writer, this open spirit. Thank you for the gift of revelation. Thank you for the gift that I am. We each proclaim, I am. And we'll move forward in confidence and peace and resolve. And we move forward as a blessing. Amen. You're welcome.
Gratitude. Thanksgiving week. As we go through these next few days, we are aware of our blessings, of the love that surrounds us, as the effect of our love has on those that are in our life. And it goes out and affects the world. Stop and remember, we are blessed. We are loved. We are expressions of God. And we are grateful. Amen. Now if you'll stand and I relax, release, and surrender. I am well. And if you'll join us for our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, I am.